Hello everyone, my name is Henry Zucco. I study environmental science at Holyoke Community College, where I've had the opportunity to complete a year-long service learning project as part of the STEM Scholars Program. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about my project titled Protect Wildlife Diversity by Certifying Vernal Pool Habitats. So essentially from October of 2021 to October of 2022, I worked on familiarizing myself with the methods of certifying vernal pools in Massachusetts. I then was able to get connected with the Department of Conservation and Sustainability here in Holyoke, who directed me to the pool that I worked on. Over that year, I created maps, I did write-ups, I took photos and videos, and then I compiled all of that together into one document, which I sent off to the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program for their review and decision. So some of you might be asking, what is a vernal pool? Well, vernal pools are special wetland features that are ephemeral in nature. Ephemeral basically means that they are dry for part of the year and filled for the rest. Typically, they will dry up in the summer and fall and fill again in the winter or spring. Now, what additionally makes vernal pools pretty special is the species that will utilize them to their advantage. Because of the ephemeral nature of pools, predatory fish can't survive in them. Since they dry up for part of the year, a fish wouldn't be able to make its home in that habitat. This means there is an ideal environment for a certain species of frogs and salamanders to reproduce and raise their young. Now, there are multiple different ways to identify a vernal pool habitat. This could include things like the USGS topographic maps that you can get on their website. It could include aerial imagery or infrared aerial imagery, or the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's National Wetland Inventory. Additionally, these pools are not defined only by their physical features, but also what species utilize them. So you can see in the top left corner, that is an image of the vernal pool I was working on, pictured in the late summertime. It almost just looks like a giant puddle. That's because it's very dried up in that. Now below that is an image of a vernal pool from above, aerial imagery. You can tell it's a body of water because it's a lot darker than the surrounding area. On the top right is a vernal pool identified on a topographic map. And below that is 3 bodies of water identified on an infrared aerial image of Rutland, Vermont. So, what is the value of a vernal pool? Well, there is a lot of value to them. These pools are breeding grounds for immense biodiversity, from dozens of species of aquatic macroinvertebrates to unique salamander species and frogs that use them. Vernal pools are frankly nothing less than unique, and that presents an inherent value in and of itself, along with the biodiversity that they foster. However, they are uniquely vulnerable due to their size, the location of them, the ability for people to spot them, and climate change. The survival of the species that rely on vernal pools to successfully reproduce means that vernal pools need to be protected like our other wetland environments too. The organisms which rely on vernal pools to successfully reproduce are known as obligate species. They will actually use the pool in both the fall and the spring to reproduce and generally return to the pool that they came from to continue this cycle. These species have come to use the fact that the pools lack predaceous fish to their advantage. Now, obligate species that we can find in Massachusetts include the wood frog, the spotted salamander, the blue-spotted salamander, marbled salamanders, Jefferson salamanders, and vernal fairy shrimp. Just a little fun fact about the marbled salamander specifically, they will actually lay their eggs and reproduce in the fall, and then let the eggs freeze over the winter and hatch in very early spring. They are the only species of mole salamander that does this. All the other ones reproduce and lay their eggs in the spring. There are additional organisms known as facultative species which also utilize the vernal pools to complete their reproduction. However, they do not solely rely on the vernal pool to successfully reproduce and are instead able to use permanent wetland environments as well. A few facultative species you can find in Massachusetts include the spring peepers you may hear in your yard on a nice summer night. Additionally, gray tree frogs, red-spotted newts, spotted turtles, and wood turtles are all considered facultative species. Now, one of the biggest risks towards vernal pool habitats is human development. This could include things like regrading the land, urban development, or the construction of roads. Additionally, however, the changing climate has the potential to really harm vernal pool habitats too. This could mean less or more precipitation, causing the pool to fill too much or not enough. It could include hotter and drier climates where the pool dries up and stays dry, or the water becomes too hot to carry these species. It could even include colder climates in which the pool freezes over permanently, or the water stays too cold to carry such species. We also need to consider that human interaction can cause additional secondary damage to vernal pool habitats, such as habitat fragmentation and pollution as well. This can really result in adverse effects such as disrupted migration patterns, decreased carrying capacity, or heightened levels of diseases in certain species. So, in order for a vernal pool to be protected under Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, it must be certified, which means volunteers have to go out and document the appropriate biological and physical evidence that proves the pool fits the criteria of a vernal pool. This will generally include photos, videos, audio recordings, maps, and other written documentation. From there, it's all compiled into one folder and handed over to the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, who will assign a biologist to the effort and make a decision appropriately. There are two methods to certify a vernal pool, either the obligate species method or the facultative species method. The ideal method of certification would be the obligate species method, in which a volunteer will document evidence of an obligate species or obligate species using the pool to breed. Alternatively, if a volunteer documents clear evidence of fairy shrimp occupying a pool, they can submit that without further evidence of other obligate species, and that will count towards the certification. On the other hand, the facultative species method requires one to document evidence of two or more facultative species using the pool to breed. So, who can certify a vernal pool? Well, that's actually the cool part because anyone can. It's not reserved for any one person. So long as you take the proper care and consideration, you too could be responsible for helping a vernal pool get certified. A few things you should consider before going out and collecting the evidence, though, includes getting landowner permission. That's really important before going on someone else's property. Additionally, photo quality and organization of your evidence. Also, the fact that nighttime observations do require extra planning, the time frame, and access to the location. So the vernal pool I worked on is located in Holyoke, Massachusetts. The property it's found on is owned by the city of Holyoke, who recently also acquired the adjacent property as well to expand a new network of foot trails. On the property, you're able to find a large baseball diamond, a big open field, a play structure in the back, forested trails, and of course, a beautiful bioactive vernal pool. The pool itself is about 100 feet long and 60 feet wide when full, and there's a moderately sized tree hanging directly over the pool, which helps identify it really easily. The surrounding forest there is mostly untouched except for the clearing of foot trails, and in the forest are various oak species, hemlocks, white pines, and various maples. As part of the documentation process, it's often asked of volunteers to describe the closest man-made structure. So at this location, the nearest structure would be the play structure, which is about 600 feet away, or the baseball diamond, which is around 800 feet away. There has been some issues with illicit ATV use on the property, but the city has put up some signage, so hopefully that has resolved. Here you can just see some of the biological evidence that I documented at the vernal pool. This is all mole salamanders of the genus Ambystoma. So on the top left, you'll see a mature spotted salamander. In the top middle, those are the eggs of the spotted salamander. On the top right is a mature marbled salamander with a ring for scale. On the bottom left is a blue spotted salamander. In the middle are developed embryos of salamanders, and on the right is a juvenile spotted salamander. Finding the marbled and blue-spotted salamanders at this location was actually a very special experience because the blue-spotted is listed as special concerned and the marbled as threatened. Additionally, they had never been documented at this location before, and they're on the rarer side of salamanders. This did mean, though, that I had to do some extra documentation since both those species are on the endangered species list in Massachusetts. In addition to documenting evidence of multiple obligate salamander species, I also documented numerous wood frogs in various stages of life, which is a great sign for the certification process. So on the top left, you can see 2 wood frogs in amplexus. This is essentially the male hugging the female, helping urge her to release eggs for him to fertilize. Below that is a massive cluster of egg masses laid by wood frogs. They tend to always lay their eggs together, hence why there are hundreds of clusters and thousands of individual eggs. In the middle are 3 tadpoles, although realistically I documented hundreds and saw thousands of tadpoles in this one pool. And on the right is a juvenile wood frog. So what's next for this pool? Well, I successfully submitted all of the evidence. I made and collected the maps, and I wrote all the documents. I compiled that all into the one folder, and I submitted it to the NHESP for the review. I am still awaiting their formal decision, as it can take pretty long for them to respond to efforts like these. However, I'm extremely hopeful about this pool getting certified status because of the species I found there. Additionally, there have been talks of possibly constructing a small information kiosk in the area surrounding the pool. I think this would be a great tool to help educate the public about the amazing habitat and biodiversity found at vernal pools. I would love to see the pool used as a tool for science and education in the future. Lastly, I will continue to monitor the pool for evidence of breeding and species utilization and continue documenting that. Thus concludes my presentation today. Thank you for watching. I would quickly like to thank Laurel Carpenter, my mentor and an influential instructor of mine here at HCC. Additionally, thank you to the National Science Foundation for helping fund my curiosity along the way, the instructors with the STEM seminar, Yoni Glogauer, the Director of Conservation and Sustainability here in Holyoke, and all my fellow STEM scholars. And of course, thank you to the Massachusetts Undergraduate Research Conference for granting me the opportunity to share this wonderful project with the greater community. Thank you.